They said no man could break the chains, but they'd never met him. Long before freedom had a flag, there was one warrior whose story was whispered in fear and awe, a man who turned captivity into legend. His name was Tomba, though some called him the spirit who fought back. They tried to erase him from the pages of history, but his fire survived in the songs of the enslaved, in the prayers of those who swore they'd rather die standing than live bound. Tomba wasn't born a slave. He was born a soldier, a defender of his people from the West African coast. When they captured him, they thought the ocean would break his will. But as the ship's chains rattled, he whispered to the waves, "You can cage my body, not my soul." Weeks later, when that ship neared the shores of South Carolina, the crew didn't know they were carrying a storm. He waited, silent, counting footsteps, memorizing keys, breathing in hate until it became courage. Then one night, thunder split the sky, and Tomba rose. He fought with bare hands, with rage sharpened into steel. Chains became weapons, darkness his ally. By dawn, the deck ran with rain and blood, and one word echoed among the terrified crew: freedom. If this moment already moves you, pause and feel that power. Then make sure you subscribe, because this is only the beginning of Tomba's defiance, a story they never wanted you to hear. Stay until the end, because what historians uncovered about his final act will shock you. The ship creaked like a coffin drifting through darkness. Every wave sounded like a heartbeat, every gust of wind a whisper of ghosts. Below deck, in the suffocating hold, hundreds of captives lay in chains. Men and women stolen from kingdoms that had once thrived under the African sun. But among them sat Tomba, his eyes open, his spirit still standing. He remembered the drums of his village, the smell of the red earth, the faces of his brothers who vowed never to bow. And though his body ached from iron and hunger, his mind was already free. That night, as thunder rolled across the Atlantic, Tomba began to move. He murmured a single word in his language, and another man answered, then another, until the darkness itself seemed to breathe with them. It wasn't rebellion, it was resurrection. When the guard opened the hatch, he saw eyes glowing through the dark, and before he could shout, chains snapped like thunder. They rose as one. The enslaved became warriors again. Wood cracked, sails tore, and lightning carved their silhouettes in white fire. That ship would never see dawn the same way again. If you're still here, still feeling this energy, you're part of something bigger than a story. You're part of a voice that refuses silence. So hit subscribe, because the truth of what came after this night was buried for centuries. And in the next chapter, you'll see why. By dawn, the ocean had gone silent. The ship drifted, broken, bleeding, half alive. And in its center stood Tomba, chains wrapped around his wrists like trophies. He was breathing hard, salt and smoke burning his skin. Bodies lay still, sailors, guards, men who thought iron could hold a spirit. The survivors whispered, "He's not human." But he was. He was the proof of what a human becomes when freedom is worth more than breath. The revolt didn't save everyone. Some jumped into the sea rather than return to chains, their silhouettes swallowed by lightning and foam. But Tomba stayed. He was captured again, beaten, dragged to the governor's fort in South Carolina. The order was clear: make an example of him. They tied him to a stake. Crowds gathered, thinking they'd watch the end of a man. But even as the firewood was piled at his feet, Tomba didn't plead, didn't beg, didn't bow. He looked the governor in the eye and said, "You can burn me, but you will never own me." And when they struck the torch, the crowd didn't see defeat. They saw a man transforming into legend. His scream not of pain, but prophecy. Because in that fire, a seed was planted. One that would grow into generations who would one day rise. If his courage makes your chest tighten, if his voice still echoes in your mind, don't let it fade here. Hit subscribe, because we're just beginning to uncover the truth about the warriors who refused to kneel. The next chapter will reveal what historians found, and it changes everything you thought you knew about slavery's story. Weeks later, whispers drifted through the colonies. A report, stamped in red wax, passed from hand to trembling hand. Inside were only a few pages, written by the men who claimed to have ended Tomba's revolt. But the words told a different story. Subject would not break. Eyes remained open, spoke in native tongue as if commanding the wind. That line alone made the governor's clerk pause. Soon strange rumors spread through the ports. Some sailors swore they'd seen a shadow standing in the surf near Charleston. Others claimed their ship's chains rattled at night, even when no wind blew. Every time a captive sang the old songs of home, the guards grew uneasy, because those songs now carried a name, Tomba. They said he'd cursed the trade itself, that his spirit rode every storm that took another slave ship down. The British called it superstition, but deep down, they feared what they couldn't control, an idea, because what they found after Tomba's death wasn't his body, it was his influence. Plantations grew quiet. Rebellion rumors thickened like summer heat. Letters from terrified overseers pleaded for protection. And among the enslaved, new hope burned. If one man could stand, maybe all of us could. That was Tomba's true rebellion. Not in the chains he broke, but in the courage he awakened. If you're still here, still feeling that fire, remember, legends survive because someone keeps telling them. So hit subscribe to keep this story alive. Drop a comment with one word that describes what freedom means to you, and let's make sure no one buries voices like Tomba's again. Decades passed. The men who wrote those fearful reports turned to dust, but Tomba's name never did. In whispers and work songs, his story sailed from plantation to plantation, a spark carried in rhythm and rhyme. Every chain that hit the ground kept his heartbeat alive. When uprisings swept the Caribbean, elders said, "The spirit of the ship has returned." And when freedom finally rose on new shores, people sang of a warrior who taught the ocean to remember. Tomba became more than a man. He became a measure of courage. Every act of defiance, every march, every voice raised for justice, traced its line back to that storm. Even today, when you hear drums at protest marches, or see someone lift a fist for the voiceless, that rhythm is his. It's the same heartbeat that once echoed in the hold of a slave ship. The sound of a soul refusing silence. If you can still hear that heartbeat right now, don't scroll away. Let this be the moment you do more than just watch. Hit subscribe, not for me, but for every story they tried to erase. Tap like so the algorithm knows these voices matter. Drop a comment with the words, "I remember Tomba," because every click, every share, is another heartbeat added to the rhythm of resistance. Together, we keep the legend alive. Tomba fought so his story wouldn't die in chains. Now it lives in you.